Welcome, everyone, to Elevate with V. So excited to be here with you. This podcast was inspired by my own healing journey. I aspire to share amazing healers and coaches to help us each elevate on our journey so we can keep aligning with our soul's calling and gifts. I can't wait to introduce my guest today, Bridget. We connected on Clubhouse, and I was instantly drawn to her warm and inviting energy and voice. She hosts so many rooms with a variety of esoteric topics, meditations, activations, spiritual development, and so much more. It's been such a delight and treat to share Clubhouse experiences together. And I'm so excited to learn more about your journey today. So, welcome, Bridget.
Thank you, Vanita. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yay! So, Bridget's official bio is she is a Starseed channel, multidimensional medium, and Galactic Unity Ambassador. Working internationally, she is an Ascension Mentor to Starseeds and all who are awake and ascending. She utilizes beyond quantum hypnosis to help us access our lives beyond Earth and anchor those frequencies into this world. She also assists us to embrace deep relationships with our galactic, cosmic, and ethereal connections for direct and clear guidance. Bridget reminds us we have trained lifetimes for what we're here on Earth to do. So, welcome again, Bridget.
Thank you. So
Wow.
happy to be here with you, love.
Thank you. Wow. Now that is quite a bio and it is jam-packed. I'm just letting everyone know. I don't know what we're going to get to today because this could be one of those that turns into like 2 or 3 episodes. um, but we're going to dive in, Bridget. As you know, this show is very much about highlighting healing journeys and how we've each navigated a variety of storms to get to our silver linings. And I know that probably holds true for you as well. So also, a lot of us have had more than one dark night of the soul, shall we say. So if there's a specific one that you want to share with us that might have led on to other experiences, I leave it up to you as to what you'd like to share.
Sure. Yes. If you are someone that's in a dark night of the soul, I invite you to just remember that there is always a light at the end of every tunnel, and you will come out with more understanding about who you are and what you're here to do in the world. That's kind of what they do for us. I think my most recent one was many years ago, but I was actually still very much in my what I like to call wild days, where I was kind of like going out all the time and dancing and partying and really just flying by the seat of my now moment, so to speak, right? And my team, I've been communicating since birth. For those of you that don't know me, hello, nice to meet you. I've been communicating with a variety of beings since birth, and I call them a soul team collective. We all have one. It is something that they are essentially the beings who are here to guide and assist us along our journey. And I've been communicating with mine my whole life, right? So they came through with a kind of vision of my potential future. And it was, here is your next, kind of role in your missions and purposes. And it was huge and intense. And they showed me essentially, even though I was quite alternative looking and feeling at that time, a bit more of the wildness, they're like, you're going to be wearing like pantsuits and you're going to go blonde and, you're going to be like the Oprah of the spiritual community. And I was like, no, this does not sound fun. But then they started showing me all of these beautiful things. And then they showed me, because of the time period that it was that they were showing me this, we weren't where we are now, right? It wasn't acceptable to talk about this with people. And they started showing me all of the various ways that people were going to attack me and how strong I would have to be and how mean people were going to be, basically. And I was like, nope, I don't want to do this one. I'm opting out. And instead of just opting out neutrally, like I know how to do now, I kind of became an ostrich in certain ways. And I call it my spiritual hibernation, though I was still doing what I do with my friends and my family and, people that I was meeting on a smaller scale. I was opting out of what I've come here to be and do. And it put me into a gradual, more and more intense dark night of the soul. And I was extremely depressed, though I didn't recognize that, which was interesting in itself. And life became very lackluster, and life became very misaligned because I wasn't congruent with what I'm here to do and be, right? So, on the heels of that, as I was making my way out of the dark night of the soul, going, okay, this timeline is extinct now. I see timelines. It's one of the things I do. And I was like, okay, we're not doing this one anymore. So I'm going to start making my way out. Well, in the making my way out, I had adopted a lot of 3D programming during that time period that I didn't come into the world with. So I had a lot of inner work to do and a lot of shadow work to do left on, for the remaining traumas that I had. And so it actually had this beautiful kind of edge to it where I was peeling away the layers of the proverbial onion, so to speak, right? And as I was doing that, I was feeling myself become brighter and brighter and finer and higher and lighter and more expanded. And all of these beautiful things were coming of that dark night of the soul. And, hindsight is 2020. That was something that I could have done in divine neutrality, like neutral love and above. But because I didn't, I gained all of these perspectives from that experience that help me understand other people and where they're at, right? So everything has purpose. And then I went into this period of meditating like 3 to 4 hours a day, some days more. And I was just super into meditation. I've been going on what I call consciousness travel journeys with my Soul Team collective since I was a teenager. They started taking me kind of what we consider like traveling through the universe and explaining things to me and all of these different things and different dimensional expressions. And so in meditation, I do a lot of that, right? Even when I'm trying to really stick with someone that's guiding a meditation, I have to really, really intend to stick with it, or I'm just like out. Really, it's in, but the experience of it is I'm in space, and then we're going places, right? Different worlds that I have connections with, different dimensional planes of existence. And so I was having these experiences with dimensional planes of existence, and seeing myself become, feeling, seeing, knowing myself become another being, and different things like that during that time period. So it was quite action packed, right? And it was full of these amazing, like, whoa, did that just happen kind of moments, right? And then in one of my meditations, I was doing a 3 meditations that I love. They are really, really nostalgic for me, and they're from the book Opening the Channel by Sanaya Roman and Dwayne Packer. And they're actually from a long time ago. I bought the CD of all of that and ripped it onto my phone or onto my computer so I could put it on whatever phone I have. And so I was listening to it, but it was the first time that I had ever worn noise canceling earbuds. And all my earbuds had not been noise canceling. That was kind of a newer technology at that time. And I had an experience with an interdimensional being, and I had no idea that it was going to happen, right? So I'm in my meditation, I'm on the second one, and one way I like to meditate is I will play before for about 30 minutes, then I'll go into meditation. And with these, they were about 45 minutes long. So I was on my third one. So I had played twice, and that I was, on my third one. And my third eye was, wide open. My physical eyes were closed, but I could see everything, right? I was literally staring at the door of my house as I was doing the meditation. And I heard this strange thud sound upstairs. And I thought, oh, it's one of my cats jumping off my desk. But then there was another series of sounds that were super weird. And I was like, huh. And it was kind of ping ponging around my house. And on like the third ping pong bounce, so to speak, I saw a color that was kind of that orangey brown that comes around in leather goods every so often as being really popular, right? And I was seeing a streak of that, and it was going, I mean, in within seconds, it was like on one side of the house to the other, downstairs, and we had, 15-foot ceilings in our living room. So it was just all over the place. And finally it bounced back upstairs, and I, with my mind, with my physical eyes still closed, I'm following it with my third eye, watching it. And there's this, kind of thrumming sound and like a metallic zing and all of these, a boom and a thud. There are all these different sounds, right? And I always get them mixed up, like what came first at this point, because it doesn't really matter. But it ping ponged back upstairs, and I was like, what in the H is that? Really loud with my consciousness communication, right? Telepathy, right? And all of a sudden that streak and those sounds comes through the wall of the upstairs, through my fireplace wall, right in front of me as I'm laying on my couch. And then I feel a dimensional barrier shift, which I've felt so many times because I've been communicating for so many years. And then all of a sudden, this beautiful being, kind of pretty short, she leans over me, and she's like, her face is right here. And she's like, hi, without any lips moving, right? And I'm like, whoa, you're beautiful. Hi, right? And I'm not moving my lips either. We're having this whole conversation. And her energy felt like, gosh, it felt like love and joy and all of these beautiful, really high, fine vibratory frequencies, right? And I'm like loving every moment of this connection with her. And her energy is so big, right? That there's this moment that I start to lose myself. My persona, starts to dissipate and like almost just like fade. But I have experienced the I am presence and the isness in meditation so many times that I understand that we are more than our persona, right? That is just an aspect of the human experience. And so I enjoyed it, right? It was like I was swimming in the allness, like just kind of floating, like everything is and isn't simultaneously. And then she pulled her energy back just a little bit, and my persona comes back, and we start having more of a conversation. And then I had this moment where I was like studying her face and, everything about her. And her skin was that color that I was seeing, that orangey brown color. She had no pores. It's like much thicker skin than we have. Her face was completely smooth except for these tiny circles that were all around. They were just slightly raised up, perfectly symmetrical circles all around her skin, with probably like this much room between them. And her skin had this kind of shininess to it, almost like a tropical waxy leaf. Her eyes were beautiful, a bit more upturned, of course, as we usually see, much wider than ours are. Her nose was very thin. She had thin lips. I don't remember if she had ears, but she did have, her skull was a bit more round than ours, no hair. And she was wearing the jumpsuit that I now know to be part of the Galactic Councils of Light. Some people here call them Galactic Federation of Light or Galactic Federation of Worlds. I've received some information that they want to be called Galactic Councils of Light, so that's what I'm calling them now. But she was wearing this jumpsuit, and I remember kind of giggling to her, like, because I was showing her like old school like biker shorts, the spandex thing, and I was kind of like showing her that as we were talking and kind of giggling that they wear the full body version of that and whatever, but it's not spandex, right? And she had an insignia on her chest, and yeah, she was just quite beautiful, and was kind of just introducing herself to me. And there was a short conversation, not in the way that we're having one now with words, right? Though there were a few exchanges in English that I believe my consciousness was translating for me. And then I had this moment of, if I open my eyes, she's going to be standing right here, because I could just feel her, right? So between me seeing perfectly with my third eye and opening my eyes, I mean, just at the inception of intention, before I even got that full thought in my mind, she kind of smiled her energy at me And then I felt the dimensional shift again beside me as my eyes fully opened and I was looking right there. And she was gone that fast. Um, and I was so excited. And I could immediately feel all of these things in my consciousness rearranging because before that moment, I had experienced all types of dimensional beings, but I hadn't had, it's like I had blinders on to, what I like to call star beings because it's quicker than saying interdimensional, ultradimensional, extra dimensional, and extraterrestrial, right? Inner, extra, all the things, right? So I hadn't really, I was always like, yeah, of course we're not the only ones in the universe. Like that would be my first answer to anyone that asked. And I had some people that were really into ufology and quote, quote, aliens. I don't like to use that word, but, come into my life and I just thought how fascinating, right? But then as soon as they were gone, it was like my blinders were back on. And hindsight's 2020. I had a lot of experiences when I was younger, but I didn't equate them to that until after that reawakening of this aspect of me, right? So I called and I had another contact experience 3 hours later with a very different type of being. That's a whole other story, but I call these contact experiences my Starseed awakening, right? So they're my activations. And it's interesting. I call her Taylor. That is not her name, but that's the name that popped in my head, and she's totally fine with it. Um, and she was just kind of the introduction, like the permission slip for me awakening to this aspect of my multidimensionality. And after that, my meditations were action packed, as was my communication with my soul team collective. So, like, I would start communicating or I would be meditating, one of the two, and then various beings within my soul team collective, which were kind of like beings of light, various forms of beings of light, would be like, this is who I am. Here's my head. Are you good? Kind of thing. And I'd be like, whoa, you're cool. And then the next one was like, here's a headshot of me, like from chest up. And then finally, I remember the first one that came forward was like, this is my whole body. And they kind of did like the tap dance, like, spread your arms up and down kind of thing, like pose. And I was like, wow. But yeah, it was just one after the other beings on my soul team collective that I had a deep relationship with because I'd spent my whole life communicating with them, started showing me this is what I look like if I have form in the way that you do, right? And not everyone has on my team has form. We're all like that, right? But the ones that do, many of them have showed me what they look like. And I think it's very cool. And then of course, information just started pouring in, right? So now I find myself, on an app, many years later called Clubhouse, where my team pulled me into it, right? And I was petrified of public speaking, and now I do it, and I'm out there normalizing the conversations around interdimensional, extra-dimensional, ultra-dimensional, extraterrestrial beings, and plus because there's so many other different forms that we express as. So it's been a wild, beautiful ride.
Wow. Oh my God,
Mm.
Bridget, that just led me into even more questions. I'm like, we are never going to be able
Yeah.
to get to everything in this episode, but that is
Mhm.
so incredible because, like you said, you've been connected to your soul team from the very beginning that you remember since childhood, but this was now like the next layer of connection with them in a very, it's almost like they were testing the waters to say, okay, she's ready. She's ready for the next thing. And you clearly were. And so then suddenly they probably got really excited, like, okay, my turn. I want to show her. I want to show her. I
Totally.
want to show her. And it's like all coming together to kind of, connect more with you, which I absolutely love. And I'm so glad that you shared that piece of the story. Cause like I said, there's so many different parts of our healing journey and different things that come out of them. So this was obviously a very important connection and building on your connections with your team. So I'm kind of going to actually take you back a little bit now to your childhood. And then what I'm also going to do is because I think that there are terms that you've used that a lot of people might not be familiar with. So like you've talked about starseed, you talked about different types of dimensional beings. So maybe as you're kind of sharing from your childhood experience, you might be able to kind of maybe blend that in there, or we can do it separately. So share a little bit about what life was like for Bridget as a kid.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm happy to blend in whatever I can, and then we can address whatever. But I grew up as a small, tiny little baby and toddler up into, now I like to joke that I was raised by angels because I spent a lot of my time as a small one, a wee one, communicating with angelic beings. And they would answer my questions, even when I didn't have yet English thoughts in my head. Like we would still communicate via energetic understanding of things, right? And so they quite literally, taught me about things. And when I would feel really lonely, I had an early trauma. So I was raised by my grandparents, my Nana and my grandpa Gene, who is now across, he's on the other side. Um, but I was raised by them, and they were very open about all of the things that I was seeing and experiencing. And I did not know that everyone didn't have these abilities. I didn't understand that that was the case because of how they would always act and respond and communicate with me about all of the things I was experiencing. And so when I had an abrupt shift from them raising me to my parents, there was a lot of trauma for me because I didn't really know them that well. And it was, kind of an abrupt shift and not getting to spend much time with the people who raised me that I thought were my parents until that moment. But it was also beautiful in a lot of ways too. But what I came into was they were not as open to what I was experiencing. And I know now it's because my mother had had some trauma around her own experiences. So she had kind of turned things down. And she is no longer turning things down, just FYI. And we are so, so very close. But she talks about her experiences all the time to her friends, and she talks about what I talk about to them and all of these things. So it's been quite beautiful. But there was this early trauma for me, and the angels would really support me through it because I would feel the loss, of the connection that I had with my Nana a lot. And so it was very interesting. And then, I think when I was, and they were teaching me things about saying no to different beings because I would have all kinds of beings come forward. Before I just move forward, I just want to talk about this for those of you that have experienced this or think your children might be. The experience of you can say no, right? If there's someone you don't want to talk to, you have the ability to say no, and teaching me, to really understand my personal power at a very, very young age has been highly beneficial for me. And has helped me to communicate in a way that feels aligned most of my life. Now, there were some wild times with all different types of beings that we would call quote, quote, lower vibrating, right? But they were really good education for me and understanding through experience with them. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey with all of that. I mean, I would have people who were no longer in their body pop in front of me, but I saw them as physical as I see you and I, right? So someone's grandma would pop in. They would just blip in and out for me a lot when I was really little. And they would be like, yeah, I remember one of them I always remember just because I think it was so sweet. And I loved my grandparents so, so much. I still do, right? But so this older woman came in, and she had such lovely energy, and she was standing in my bedroom, and I had church the next day, right? And so her grandson was in my class with me, and she comes in and she asks me to tell him that his grandmother loves him and is always with him. And then she just, kind of pats my head and gives me some love and then blinks right out, right? But to me, they were as physical as you and I. And so, of course, the next day I went and told my little friend that his grandmother says she loves him and she's always with him. And he was fine with it, right? Now, I don't know what he told his parents and what they were thinking, if he ever did, right? But for the kids, like whenever I would relay messages to children, which did happen often, from their loved ones who were no longer in the body, um, they were always really calm about it, right? They were like, "Oh, thank you," like because we're not really programmed yet to think that those things are not normal or not good or not whatever, right? Especially when it's coming from an open heart. So, yeah, there was lots of that. Then I think the Ascended Masters, several of the Ascended Masters came in next. And, of course, I had the entire group of higher and master guides that would come in and communicate with me, and the angelics, of course, always. And then that group of interesting beings, kind of came in at some point, and various elementals and what we call elementals, right? So all different types of beings within my soul team collective, and just various experiences at different times. And always, I was the one that everyone drug around to all of the quote quote haunted places and things like that, right? So it was like always knowing exactly when to get out and when to stay and all of those things. And a lot of the times there was nothing there, but the times that there was something there were pretty intense. But yeah, it was just an interesting way of coming up. I always had people in my life that weren't quite as open as I was to all of these things, to be able to experience all of these things, but they had enough openness to kind of understand and make me feel comfortable. But it was really lonely to be so 5D and so multidimensional, because there were so many things that I couldn't share with other people. And there was this feeling of wanting to go home and connecting that, but I had no idea about the starseed stuff, right? So, for those of you that are wondering, starseeds are interesting. So, we are humans that know that Earth is not our primary home, and that this is one of many expressions that we are living simultaneously. Our soul is living simultaneously. And we experience ourselves as coming here generally as volunteers to assist the Earth collective, the Gaia collective, and the human aspect of that collective to really expand our consciousness, awaken the slumbering aspects of consciousness, and then expand rather, and to raise the vibration of the collective just through being, but also through the things that we've come here to do in service. So if you ask me, I don't know that every single person on earth is a starseed, but I have a suspicion, because to me, a starseed is just a person that knows that they've lived somewhere else besides the earth experience. Particularly, we think of it as galactic, but also cosmic and ethereal, which is, you know, kind of less density, less form, less of the experience of physicality, right? The cosmic is kind of, you can be, but you may not, right? And then the ethereal is kind of what it sounds like, right? It's probably no form of physicality unless they choose one for whatever. But maybe that'll help those of you that are new to this. But yeah, it's kind of a global reawakening to remember who we are. So when you have people that identify with being a star seed or a walk-in or a hybrid, this is just remembering a bit more of who we are beyond the human earth experience. So hopefully that helps.
Ooh, I love it so much, Bridget. Oh my God, I can't even imagine like being part of your childhood and all you experienced. But for you, that felt quite normal, right? Because that's
Mhm.
all you ever knew. And you actually even said you're like, you thought everybody else had like similar experiences to you. So I love that what you shared was really important, that you did have some openness and support, at least from your grandparents. And,
Mhm.
I think probably your team was also helping to orchestrate so that you would have just enough support that you didn't feel completely like disconnected from our, I guess, our 3D world, right? So
Mhm.
such a fascinating thing. So, and I love that you shared about like star seeds, because I know that a lot of people, like, they don't know what that means, and it's like, well, am I from here, am I not from here, and how do I find out information? So there is a lot of, I would say, kind of exploration, right? If you sense that you could be a star seed, I think it's important that you start to like just start looking up. I mean, my God, everything you can find on social media these days, right? And but at the same time, and I think you would agree, Bridget, is sometimes there's so much information, it can also get confusing. So I think, like you were mentioning, you've been very connected to your team, since the very beginning. For a lot of us, it probably was there, we just didn't know. And I know for me personally, like I really felt more of that connection as I started to go through my own personal healing journey, and kind of saying, oh, wow, I'm not by myself. I do have a team that's here to support me and help me. But I do need to ask, because they're not going to just jump in and be like, hey, let's kind of help you with all of these things. There is a understanding of, I need to ask for the help and support. They're there, they're eager, they're willing, but that request has to be made. So one of the other things I wanted to ask you about is, because you use these terms and I'm probably not going to say them right, but you said interdimensional, and you had two or three other words connected.
They're kind of a big topic. So we can think of interdimensional beings who are essentially, well, there's many different ways to look at them, right? And there's many different definitions out there, but you can think of them as beings who are still in physicality, and yet they exist within our dimensional expression and those that are surrounding us, right? So you can think of them as sort of sharing experience with us, but in their own way, right? So sharing the same spaces. These get really interdimensional, extra dimensional, ultra dimensional, and everyone pretty much kind of understands extraterrestrial. So interdimensional is like traveling and traversing between the dimensions that, in one definition, it's traveling and traversing between the dimensions that are connected with the earth experience in whatever way it is. There's also a definition out there in the interwebs, I should say, that is saying that interdimensional are beings who are like from what we would call inner earth or things like that, right? And then there's others too, right? So I hold all of these loosely, right? These are just labels. They're not really that important. What is important is our connection with these beings, what it awakens within us. I firmly understand that within the Human Earth Collective, we are sort of playing with collective agreements. And some of them are illusion, right? So it's like the illusion of separation, and the illusion of, there's just so many, right? So we're playing with, agreements to forget, right? So the illusion of forgetting. So this is one of the places we can come to as infinite creator beings whose soul is living and expressing as so many different types of beings and non-beings even, right? And we get to come here and forget that we know all that we know, and then forget that we are so deeply connected with everything in existence that we don't even know we're connected to ourselves, much less someone else, much less our co-inhabitants, much less our planet, much less anything beyond it, right? But in this period of humanity's evolution and consciousness, we get to reawaken to all of that if we so choose, right? So it's very interesting. So I think really it's less important to know the definition of what an interdimensional is. And again, you guys, there's so many different variations of what I just said, and some that other people will argue with, like even the ones that I just spoke with, there's hot conversations that happen around what an interdimensional is. And honestly, I don't hold any of them like, Bible, right? Like I don't hold any of them to be like the solid truth. I just know that these beings have a slightly different feel and slightly different expression than what we are here. And this is also why I like to call them all star beings, right? Even though they're not all from a star, they're not all they don't all have a star, in their space. And some of them don't even have bodies, they experience themselves in a very different way than we do. I think it's just easier to just say that and allow it to be whatever it is, right? So there's so many different potentials and opportunities for expressing within this universe and beyond, that it's okay not to label everything. It's okay to just let it be what it is and see what your connection is and what it reawakens memory wise and knowledge and wisdom within you, right? So that's what I do with all of it.
I love that. Thank you, Bridget. That really helps because it's so easy, like you said, to just get caught up in all of these different terms and terminologies and go down different rabbit holes, which is fine. We've all done it. That's part of the journey and the process. But at some point, also to sort of just come back to center and say, okay, what's really important? What am I focusing my energies on? And what am I here to do? If you feel like you have some sort of mission or something that you really want to pursue. And a lot of it is, like you said, remembering, right? Like we all came down here with some very specific things that we would like to like do and accomplish when it comes to this beautiful planet. And so each one of us is kind of exploring what that is and remembering, right? All these different aspects and pieces. Would you say, and this is kind of something that I was thinking about, is, you talked about soul team and we all have teams. Do you feel like all of those beings or whatever we want to call them are just different aspects of ourselves reflecting back to us? I'm very curious what you think.
I love that. Yes. So the way I perceive it is, and I mentioned a bit of this before, so our soul is expressing all over the place, right? All different types of experiences, some in physicality, others not, and every variation and multiple in all of them, multiple expressions in all of them, right? This is how I experience the understanding of my soul and what we're doing right now, right? So I used to call them parallel lives. My husband has asked me to call them simultaneous lives because parallel lives to him has a parallel world kind of effect to it, right? Um, so when it comes to all the variety of ways that our soul is expressing, you know, with the human consciousness and the way we choose within the human expression currently, there is absolutely, well, let me just, my soul team's correcting me, want me to choose my language a little different. It is pretty rare for us to really see the true vastness of what is happening right now, right? So we can come more into that. But when it comes to the different ways that we're expressing in our soul team collective, a lot of the beings within our soul team are our friends and family from beyond the human experience, but also within it, right? We have luminous ancestors, and some of them, per my understanding and the way I have experienced with thousands and thousands of clients, and my own, communication with my soul team collective, many of them are parallel or simultaneous aspects of our soul. There are those that are just deeply connected with us through other expressions, or like if you consider our master guides, they help us, so to speak, like plan our, we'll call it incarnation, even though it's not always a physicality, but they help us plan like our soul plan, almost like the blueprint of our soul and what it is all, like the bigger picture of it, right? And they help us really, while we're in these expressions, right, our higher and master guides are assisting us constantly. It's just most people aren't consciously aware of that, right? And when you become consciously aware of it, that's when it really goes to another level. So um, there's a lot of different beings. Some people have a smaller soul team collective, and small being relative, right? And others have a really giant one. I don't feel like one is better than the other. That's not what this is about. For me, it's about what you've come here to do and be in service, right? So generally speaking, those of us with really, really large soul team collectives, who are active, right? Because we can have almost infinite number of beings we're connected to, right? But those that are actively connecting and communicating and guiding and assisting us, um, I find that we've come here to really be in connection with large groups of people, right? And there is nothing better or worse about someone with a smaller soul team collective. In fact, I find it probably is much more organized in certain ways, right? So you have you have less to keep up with, at least from a human perspective, right? But with regardless of all of that, even our high self, which is that beautiful higher aspect of our soul that is sort of like the dreamer and we are the dream, right? The part of us that has planned this entire experience with the inclusion of free will choices all over the place, right? But planned that like you're gonna do this no matter what. And I'm gonna put it all around your path, right? So even if you feel like you're going backwards in life, you're still gonna hit that mark, right? That kind of a thing. The aspect of us that boots the baby bird out of the nest when we're like dragging our feet on something, right? Like I was talking about earlier with me, there are plenty of booting the baby bird out of the nest moments happening during that time period. This is the part of us that knows exactly what we're here to do and how it relates to all of the other expressions that our soul is living. I consider that part of ourselves within our soul team collective as well, because they know themselves in oneness, though they may be having different expressions during this now moment, they still communicate as one most of the time, right? They still, braid frequency when they're communicating with people like me who channel, right? And who communicate, and with you who doesn't know that you channel and communicate. Yeah, like, all these people, not you, Vanita. I'm just talking to anyone who's listening who's like, I don't do that. You do. Everyone channels. It's just a matter of whether you do it consciously. But yeah, it's quite beautiful when you begin to interact with them in a conscious way. Then it's like you're giving yourself permission slips for new ways of being in your life, right? To open and expand even more so that more of your divine knowingness, more of those wisdom and knowledge keys that you've collected throughout all of your lifetimes and all of your expressions, then you can begin to really access that information. And my thing is always, and this is something my team always talks about, it's beautiful to access your higher knowingness and your galactic information and your cosmic and ethereal information. But the point of it isn't just to have those really amazing experiences, it's really to ground it in this human experience and anchor it, right? So that it's now anchored within you and you are naturally just emanating all of that knowledge and wisdom from you, whether you say a word or not. All of those codes, keys, and frequencies are now just emanating from you without you even having to do anything if you don't want to, right? So yeah, I think I went a little deep on that one, Vanita, but hopefully everybody understands. If not, you guys hit Vanita up. She can tell you some answers. Just kidding. You can come to Clubhouse and hang out and ask all your questions.
Yes, yes, and that's so true. Like Bridget is saying that, yes, please come and connect on Clubhouse because these are the topics that we dive into a lot of Bridget's spaces, which is so amazing. So if you're curious and you want to learn more, fantastic resource. I mean, I've only been on Clubhouse for about like 6 months, and I'm just blown away by the people that I've met, the information, and to just feel at home so quickly because these are the types of conversations that I love where we go deep and we just explore. And it's not even about like right and wrong and this is how it needs to be. It's really just exploring, right? And at the end
Mhm.
of the day, like you said, Bridget, it's like all of this information is so amazing and we're all fascinated, right? I'm like, ooh, star seeds, ooh, multidimensional, ooh, inner earth, like all of these things. And they're wonderful. But at the end of the day, we still have to kind of come back to like, this is the experience that we chose. So, how do we bring these pieces of ourselves into our everyday experience, right? Because it's really easy to be up in the ethers, but it's like we still need to be grounded here and remind ourselves that, we've come to enjoy this experience as well. But as we deepen our connection and we're receiving and remembering, we can integrate that more. And so that kind of leads me into this space of, I know we were kind of talking about some, I would like to say, higher frequency information. And there are a lot of people that are kind of maybe also in the place of just building their connections, realizing that they have a team that they can reach out to and connect with. So are there like some really simple steps to just say, okay, if you are kind of in that place where you're like, yes, I want to like understand and learn more and my connections and my teams and my guide, what would you direct people to, Bridget? What would you suggest as one or two things that people could just start with? I know it's kind of more of a beginner level thing, but hey, why not?
No, yeah, everything is important. We're all in various degrees of consciousness expansion right now. So, we all have slumbering aspects. We're all awakening them at our own pace. There is no better or worse. We're all masters. I just want to say this one thing before I go into that, how to communicate and connect. There is not a human on the planet, and this is what my team has said, that isn't a master upon master upon master of other expressions beyond the human earth experience. So, and when we say master, it's not controlling aspect of master, it's more like ascended master, like we have really embodied whatever that experience is, if it had a body. But we have really, fulfilled that experience within expression, right? And we hold the wisdom and the knowledge of those expressions. And often, and well, always, we bring those into our human expression as specializations and masteries. So one of mine is connecting and communicating and staying awake when the world was still slumbering. Most everybody in the world was still slumbering, right? So bringing that in. Another of mine is unity consciousness, right? Still accessing that we are all connected, we are all one. Now, am I always perfect at it? No, this is a human experience, right? Have there been times in my life when I was really experiencing the separation? Yes, and still do sometimes, right? Like, but this is part of the human experience, right? But what I do is I remind everyone that we are all connected. And there's an aspect to how I connect with anyone, whether they be human or not, that remembers us in unity and oneness, right? And so that is used as different people that connect with me, whether you're listening right now or you're actually communicating with me in another way. We'll offer that as a permission slip for ourselves when we connect with someone that has particular frequencies that we're ready to, so to speak, reawaken within ourselves, right? And access, whatever you want to say, right? So connecting with your soul team collective can start as easy as having an intention to do so, a very clear, it's like deciding you want to do it in a very clear way without it being sticky, right? So you don't want to attach too much to it, because that creates resistance, and anything that you attach to and anything that you resist persists, right? So what you want to do is just be very clear, like almost like a gentle declaration. And you can say something out loud with me right now if you want to, if you're one of those people. You can say, hey, Soul Team Collective. And if you know they're there, you can say, I know you're here. Or if you don't, say, I want to know that you're here, right? And you can say, I desire deep, meaningful, loud, clear, obvious connection and communication with you. And it could be that simple. You can also say, during my waking conscious reality or and beyond or whatever, you can fluff it up, right? But just acknowledging and inviting through your intention to have a very, waking reality connection and communication, because we all have that during dream time, and we all have it on a super consciousness level. It's just a matter of bringing that into your now very human understanding of your life and the world and the way we are here, right? And then you can say, give me some signs that you're here with me, right? And this is where you begin to observe. You observe. So mostly our soul team collective speaks in like signs and symbolisms and opening doors for you with particular experiences and circumstances and situations, and connecting you with certain people and things like that. Now, you will, if you practice more and more, graduate to a more direct type of communication, where they will often be translated into English or whatever your native language is. But initially, it's more subtle, right? So you might be seeing, repeating numbers everywhere you go. Like it might be certain numbers, it might be a bunch of different repeating numbers, and it might be, particular number combinations like 1348 or, whatever. And you might also, be seeing particular animals over and over and over, or insects, right? Like butterflies or dragonflies or birds, or, it could be anything, right? You might be hearing things or catching yourself thinking about something, and then someone else will be talking about it and giving the answer to it. And often, this is a synchronistic moment where your high self and your soul team kind of puts you in the right place at the right time with the right people, right? So that you can hear more on it. You might overhear someone talking about something that's well beyond what you understand right now. And then later have an experience, and all of a sudden you remember that moment. That's a seed planting moment. There'll be plenty of those in your awakening journey, right? Where all of a sudden that seed sprouts into a flower, right? And you're like, oh, now I understand what that strange girl was talking about all those years ago, right? Or all those months ago, or whatever, right? Even yesterday, whatever it is, right? So there's also something that you can do, and I say come to Clubhouse. We have a room called Learn to Connect with Your Star Family that we do almost every month, but there are replays available of this, where my Soul Team Collective has channeled through a very simple, easy way to start connecting with your, we call it star beings, but it could be any being within your Soul Team Collective, right? So you could have, angelic beings, higher and master guides. You could have ascended masters come forward. You could have, star beings. You could have luminous ancestors. You could have some form of elemental or other type of being, but they're all going to be high vibratory and for your highest and best good, and the highest and best good of all, right? So we're not talking about inviting in beings that are lower vibratory of nature. They're not going to be in your Soul Team Collective, right? We're talking about those beings are more to bring in messages, we'll say, so to speak, right? If you run across anyone that is, lower vibratory, something that is uncomfortable for you to be around, those beings generally are messengers, but most of humanity doesn't understand that yet. So that's a whole other conversation that we can have, but definitely go to Clubhouse and, do the step in, step out experience, which is what my team called it. And we call it Learn to Connect with Your Star Family. And it's something you can practice all the time. You can do it while you're doing the dishes, right? So you get that feel for who your team is, and you can practice what receiving is like for you, receiving information that is not just in the physical. But yeah, hopefully that helped.
Oh, that was amazing, Bridget. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that was really wonderful for everybody, right? Because I think sometimes it's not even about someone just kind of starting off. Like all of us need these reminders, because I know that even when you were sharing, like I remember during my journey, like even though I was like, yeah, I have a team, I wouldn't ask for help because all I've ever known is kind of doing it by myself. So it's almost like I would have to remind myself to say, oh, wait, why am I always like doing this by myself? Like I can ask for help. There's support
Mm-hmm.
for me. So, to this day, that's something that I still work on because it's not an automatic. Like I have to remind myself to connect with my team and ask for help. I'm so much better than I was before, but it's almost sort of this deconditioning, right? Because that was the only way I knew how to do things. I just wasn't aware that my team was there creating these synchronicities, the coincidences that I experienced. I just looked at it, it's like, oh, well, this is just what's happening, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really beautiful once you start to put these things into practice. And like you said, it's just something that you start doing and it just strengthens the muscle, and then you just kind of get better and better. And kind of how you were sharing in your experience of, you're just going to keep opening up to different layers, and they're just going to keep sharing more and more, well, whatever you're ready for, because they know what you're ready for, right? So it's not like they're going to shock you into something unless you've been ignoring a lot of signs, then maybe. But usually
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how it happens. And so I love that you shared that. And oh my gosh, there's so much we can talk about, but I'm going to kind of come back to, I would love to now kind of come back to some of the things that you're focused on doing, because, you shared in your bio that, you do beyond quantum hypnosis, you work with Starseeds, you're a Galactic Unity Ambassador. So let's dive into some of this stuff.
Yeah, so exciting. I love Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis. So this is a variation, kind of an offshoot of Dolores Cannon. If you guys are not familiar with her, definitely look her up. Dolores Cannon created a form of hypnosis called Quantum Healers Hypnosis Technique, QHHT. And this is what I do. Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis was created by someone who trained with her, was very close with her, and worked with her a lot. And her name is Candace Craw Goldman. And Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, the minute I did my first one, the minute I received my first one, and the minute I did my first one, I was like, yes, this is it. This is one of the things I'm adding to my collection of things that I do. And I found that a lot of my specializations and masteries that I'm here for have really been easily incorporated into this type of session. So this is not the kind of hypnosis that you quack like a duck or bark like a dog. This is an inner journey where you communicate with your high self and your soul team collective, whomever steps forward. You receive particular lives and expressions. Because I'm so star-seeded, it's very rarely on Earth these days, which is very interesting. Over the last 3 years, most of them have become very galactic, cosmic, or ethereal. But they always have a purpose. Your high self guides the entire journey. We are not in control of it, though we can offer focal points by way of questions and things like that. Your high self is going to give you exactly what you need in one of these, whether you know what that is or not. And they tend to be a fast track of your consciousness journey. So your spiritual journey is fast tracked. I bring in a list of questions myself, which not all practitioners do. I as a blueprinter, which is a whole other probably show, I bring in a lot of questions about your light body and activating your multidimensionality within your human expression, and then a lot of really detailed healing and things like that. But also, some clearings and things like that. So you'll receive a lot of upgrades, activations, healing, and clearing, right? And I also bring in a lot of multi-D things like clearing out the fear. We do ancestral clearing as well, and different things like that during the healing portion. And then if you have any focal points for your healing, or things like that, we can add that in as well. But yeah, these sessions are amazing. To be really honest, like if I could do one of these like once every month, I would probably do it myself. I just haven't found a practitioner that I'm super comfy with yet to do that on a regular basis. But every time I do it, I'm catapulted into like not just the next level, it's like more and more and more. The cool thing about these is that most people start to observe some sort of difference energetically, like how they feel. I feel like I just dropped a bunch of, emotional weight or mental weight or whatever. That's one of the first things, and a peacefulness within themselves, a more grounded, anchored feeling within themselves as well. And anchored not being a negative word, right? Like just feeling very, very comfy in who they are. And then there comes all of the open doors that come next, right? So like all the experiences that are the fast tracks through, healing journeys, and through, things that they never even knew that they wanted to do. Like those things are now coming into their world to help really align them with their missions and purposes, like what they've come here to be, who they've come here to be, and what they've come here to do, and how they've come to be of service, whether it's within their own lives, with the people in their own lives, but also the collective, right? In whatever way that looks like. There's so many flavors of it. And then the Starseed mentoring is a lot of, I just really love what I do. I feel like I get paid to be me. I get paid to really help people shift perspectives and step out of all the boxes they don't even know they're in, right? And to help them navigate their own ascension journey, whatever that looks like, because all of our journeys are unique to us. We will share commonality, but they're each so unique. And these sessions are called one-on-one with Bridget, right? So these sessions they're really customized and tailored to what each person is going through within their own ascension journey, within their own starseed journey. Oftentimes, there are channeled messages that come through from their soul team collectives and their high selves. And then oftentimes there's a bit of mentoring that happens with, this is what I'm experiencing. Here's where I feel stuck, or here's where I feel confused, or, I don't know what the next best steps are for me, those kinds of things. Right. So it's coming not only from my high knowingness and my, experiences in my own life, but also from the Soul Team collectives. Right. So their Soul Team collective and mine. And then there's often healing, a smaller version of what I do in the BQH, right? So it is, I get a lot of people that are like, I'm having these crazy ascension symptoms, and I thought I was sick, and the doctors can't find anything. And then I heard about ascension symptoms, and now I'm like, please help me, and things like that. And so we can bring in some harmony and balance for your systems and different things like that. And often your healing team and your high self will give you advice on things to do, right? And there are some really simple things that people can do, like go outside, take your shoes off, put your feet on the earth, sit your tush on the earth, put your hands on the earth, and hang out there for a while. Lay down on a blanket, lay down on the grass itself. The grass, right? Like, what, we have to touch things in nature? Yes, it's part of our let me just say, nature is the great equalizer for humans, right? So trees and plants and grass, and don't worry about the insects. I mean, obviously look for ant piles. You don't want to like lay down inward, but they're going to be doing their own business. They're not trying to be all over you unless you're like in, kind of harming their home, so to speak, right? But yeah, get yourself outside in nature, connect and ground, especially with all of the Schumann resonance things that are happening right now. It's especially important to really allow ourselves to be harmonized with our planet right now. We're not designed to wear, though I do all the time, I wear really tall shoes, but we're not designed to be in those all the time. We're designed to be with our feet on the ground, right? So spend as much time as you can do that, as you can doing that, rather. And then drink lots of water, eat healthy food that has a lot of light, so fresh food, right? And then, different things like that, right? So there's so many different things you can do to assist your journey if you're feeling a little bit of the wobbliness of ascension. And a lot of it is about allowing your body to catch up to your consciousness, so to speak, as you're being kind of brought into your next level of whoever you're going to be. But yeah, I don't know, if I think I answered your question, Vinny, and I don't remember. I think I got on a little tangent on that
It was a great tangent, all information that is very valuable and helpful. And I know that everyone that's tuning in to listen to this episode is getting so much. So it's not just your journey, but you're sharing some very like, it's almost like actual tools that people can kind of put into practice like right away, right? And what I
one.
love about this is, there's replays. So come back because this is like jam packed with so much information. And we've only scratched the surface with Bridget and all the amazing things that she does. So I was like, oh my God, this could be like a 3 hour episode. So much more to talk about. But I want to remind everybody that all of Bridget's information is going to be in the bio section everywhere that this gets posted. Please check her out. Please come to Clubhouse. Her spaces that she co-creates with some beautiful people is just so amazing. It's very interactive. So it's not like, they're just kind of hosting the room. It's like all of us get to participate. We get to share. We get to learn. We get to grow and support each other. And I think that's one of the things that I enjoy the most is being able to have a space where you feel really safe and comfortable, where you can ask and share what you're going through and have people who are like, yes, I'm going through that, or I understand your experience, and how can we support each other, and how can we just do things together. And to give an example, we were in one of the spaces, I think it was yesterday, and we were talking about physical touch and hugs, and the next thing you know, it turned into like, let's just all kind of put our intention on sending hugs to all of those that were wanting to receive one. So it's also like co-creation in that moment, and it was so beautiful. And to have spaces where that happens. So I would definitely highly encourage people to come check it out. And like Bridget said, there's lots of replays, so you can always go visit. It's like, it's not that you miss something, it's there. Come and check it out. And Obviously, there's so much more, Bridget. Oh my goodness, that we could like dive into. We've literally just scratched the surface, but this is just such amazing information. And I'm so grateful that we've gotten a chance to at least touch some of those things. And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be like, Bridget, we're coming back for a round two. There will be a part two to this episode.
Good. I love it.
I love it. So thank you so, so much. So we're coming to that segment. Unless there's something else that you wanted to share, I was going to invite you to offer something to the collective, whether it's a message, light language, card pulls, whatever you feel inspired to share.
So I have one thing to share. I am currently creating a community that can become, it's really going to be the next level of what we're doing on Clubhouse. And it is, you can find it at www.ascensioncatalysts.com. We should be launching very, very soon by the time this goes out, maybe. So definitely come with us there. This is going to have so many layers. It already does, right? But one of the things that is being offered for the premium tier is a 12-month program called Path of Ascension, 48 Keys to Guide Your Spiritual Journey. And this is all of the ascension keys, the major ascension keys that I have received in my life leading forward. So we'll spend about a week on each one, most of them. Some of them we might not spend a full week on if they're a smaller key. But definitely come for the community though, because the way I've set it up is there will be many different spaces with focal points that we all have for our ascension journey, but also for other things that are within our spiritual wheelhouse, so to speak, where we can all connect very deeply. And we'll do a lot of live experiences as well within this. So definitely, if you're feeling that call for a community and people who are similar to you, but in varying degrees of their journey, this will be that kind of a place. It'll be just like Awaken Ascending, where we accept you for who you are and where you are. No judgment, understanding that each of us is a master, even someone who feels like they just started their journey. We all come in with our own pieces to this puzzle, and those pieces are just as valid when you're first awakening as they are when you've been doing this for a lifetime, right? So definitely come connect with us there. And yeah, so something I'm asking the Soul Team Collectives what they want to do for this.
Thank you
Just,
so much, Bridget. That was
oh,
so
you're
amazing for
welcome.
sharing that information. And like I said, we will link it in the bio so you will all have access. And this is going to be so amazing. I'm so excited for you, Bridget.
Oh, beautiful. I'm so excited for all of us. This has a way of, I've looked at the timelines. They keep showing me the timelines. It has a way of like really supporting us in a very deep way, which is, I think, the next level of what we do on Clubhouse. So it's super exciting. And yes, the Soul Team Collective, I'm asking if they would like to bring through a message. I'm just going to close my eyes. So I don't have to close my eyes when I channel, as we all know, but I like to really focus in sometimes. And that's why I close my eyes. Yeah, I think we're going to do a message. They just want to remind everyone that you are where you are right now, and everywhere you are is okay. So, regardless of what you're experiencing in your world, whether it's full of a lot of contrast and intensity, or, moments to where you are feeling heartache or heartbreak, they're just reminding you, and this has been coming through a whole lot lately, to feel your feelings. Refrain from resisting and pushing it away, refrain from holding on to it and allowing yourself to sink in the abyss. Unless it feels right in the moment, then do whatever. But it's all about really just allowing ourselves to be and honoring ourselves wherever we are within our journey. And understand that if you are new to your journey, there's no real destination for this. This is an entire lifetime of journey where you have these magical moments that come in and you're able to really transform from the inside out. They're also wanting to remind people that this is a journey within ourselves, very deep journey within ourselves. It's getting to know who we really are and deciding what we want to be how we want to be, what we want to do within the world, and then acting upon that, allowing ourselves to really live by our heart and what is in alignment, and what we call in the consciousness community being congruent, right? So it's about really going within instead of seeking everything from outside of us, though the connection that we have when we seek from outside will always point us back in, right? So if you are in that moment of your life where you are, looking for information all over the place to see what resonates with you, we're not saying that's a bad thing. We're just saying it's going to point you back in anyway. And do your inner work. If you have a question on what inner work is, come hang out on Clubhouse or get on the internet. There's, countless sources of how to do it. And remember, only accept what resonates with you, what feels right for you. Let everything else fall away. And you don't have to throw out an entirety of what someone is sharing just because there's 10% or even 90% that doesn't resonate with you. It's okay to be in a neutral place with the information other people are saying, even if it doesn't align with you. And if you are getting triggered by something someone else is saying, that's an invitation to go within. Even if you feel like they have done something to you or said something that is terrible or whatever, if you're feeling an intense emotional upwelling from something someone else has done or said, it's an invitation to go within and look at yourself and see what that's pointing at inside of you. And it may not be anything that you would think it would be, right? Because there are lots of times that those things are like, oh, I didn't know that was there. Everything right now is designed to really allow us to peel away the layers of the onion of what no longer serves us and bring in the new of what does uplift and support us, but also everyone else. So anything that you're doing that is really hard and is not working out and there's something going on, really take a good look at it. If it is taking a lot of will to continue in that direction, take a good look at that, whatever it is, one. And two, take a look within yourself. What within me, is there anything within me that's ready to be transformed, that's ready to be healed, that's ready to be released, that's ready just to be set down, right? Or is just asking for the light of my awareness, just for me to know it's there. And take a moment as you're doing that and feel honor for it, like honor it, love it, and be grateful for whatever it is and allow it to be. It will transmute, it will be healed, it will be set down, right? But the days of beating ourselves up for the things that we have within us that we didn't know or didn't remember or chose such a long time ago, those days are over. We don't have to do it that way anymore. It gets to be easier in this now moment. And we get to choose a life that is effortless, easy, and filled with grace. Or we can choose other things, and there's no right or wrong way of doing this. That's what's coming through right now. They'd also like to do a quick light language transmission, if that's okay. So we're bringing in, I'm just asking what they want to do. They're going to bring in a light language transmission with pure unconditional love. You guys might experience the crystalline diamond rainbow light. That's what I call it. Some people call it diamond light. It's one of the higher frequency octaves, so to speak, or chords that we're accessing right now within the human collective. So this will be coming in with harmony. And for those of you that know who the Andromeda galaxy beings are, you'll really like this. There's also a collaboration, so to speak, that will happen during this. I feel the feline Lyrans and probably the Pleiadians. So we're going to bring through a transmission in just a moment. So let me just allow this to come through. Nishkamara iyala ushkiala hina kura kina aya una kashimala ki ashkiala uraki hina ashiala ka inamushkiniaya ashkiala uraki hina ashiala I Ushkinia orakina alayina murakuraka. Ashkiala urakia yama urakina a. Ina asiala u. Ina karakuraki. Ina ma ura i. Ashkiala u ali. So thank you very much for that. And if you are new to light language, you do not have to understand it. It is designed as frequencies and information that is light to come through and within you. And if you feel like it's super weird, if this is the first time you've heard it, it was for me the first time I heard it too. And I will say the more you resonate, the more you feel and just allow. You saw Benita close her eyes and just receive. The more you do that with those who are speaking light language that feels resonant with you, the more you will receive through your fields. And it's like the aspect of you that knows without having to be conscious of it receives it, so to speak, right? So your super conscious and your subconscious mind are receiving. So thank you very much, Benita. It's been
Oh my
so
gosh.
beautiful co-creating in this way. I've loved every second of it. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here and receiving. Come play with us on Clubhouse or in the Ascension Catalyst community. And on Clubhouse, we are awake and ascending. And I love you, Benita. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. And that was so beautiful, that transmission, that message was so powerful, followed by the light language, which it felt like this like warm hug for me. I was just like, oh, that was
Mm,
so beautiful. So yes, and I love what you shared about, it's not something that we have to understand, to just allow and to just allow that experience to happen. And I think that's so beautiful. And thank you so much, Bridget. Like I said, we talked about so many different things, and there's so much more that we can dive into, but I'm so grateful that you took the time to come and join me to share about your experiences, your journey, about what you're creating and what you've already created. So I can't wait for people to check out all the links that'll be in the bio so they can find you and connect with you and support you. And I'm just so grateful. So thank you everybody for tuning in. I hope that you received lots of beautiful, as Bridget says, codes, keys, and frequencies through this beautiful podcast. And I can't wait to connect with each of you in the next episode.